25 envelope budget rules. No one follows anymore. Before budgeting apps, families ran their money through paper packets and iron rules. Rent, coal, groceries, even trolley fare had their own envelope. But how did this simple system keep millions debt-free through the Great Depression? 25. Fixed envelopes for rent and utilities came first. The very first envelopes, every payday, went to rent and utilities. Families in the 1920s and 30s knew one missed payment could mean eviction or lights cut off. Average rent in New York tenements was $26 a month in 1930, while electricity often added $2. This discipline created stability when jobs were unpredictable. Historians note that landlords respected tenants who always had the envelope ready. That sense of order laid the foundation for every other envelope rule. But food demanded weekly structure. 24. Grocery envelopes topped up every Saturday. Instead of putting aside all food money at once, families divided grocery cash into weekly envelopes. A 1935 study showed households spent roughly 35% of income on food, meaning a $20 weekly wage gave just $7 for meals. By Saturday, a new envelope was opened for bread, beans, or potatoes. This rhythm prevented overspending in the first week and hunger by the fourth. Store clerks even recognized families by which envelope they unfolded. Yet, these envelopes carried another rule. No mixing allowed. 23. No borrowing between envelopes under any circumstance. One of the hardest rules was absolute separation. The clothing envelope could be full while the grocery one sat nearly empty, but no swapping was allowed. This tough line taught priorities. Patched shoes were better than empty bellies. Social workers in the 1930s recorded families sticking to this even under strain, because bending one rule risked unraveling all. Parents even scolded kids for slipping dimes across. The rigidity worked, though. It preserved discipline. And sometimes discipline quietly grew into savings. 22. Rollover envelopes grew into savings silently. When an envelope wasn't emptied, the leftover coins stayed sealed inside. Over months, small remainders turned into a secret savings cushion. In 1934, a social survey noted many working families built $10 to $15 nest eggs this way, enough for winter coal or a doctor bill. The power came from invisibility. No one touched the rollover until a crisis. Mothers often slipped coins without telling husbands, calling it rainy day money. This discipline created unexpected resilience. But emergencies demanded another envelope, one rarely opened. 21. Cash-only weekends stopped overspending. Families declared weekends a credit-free zone, living only on the envelope's physical bills. Without checks or promises, Saturday night meant knowing exactly how much remained. Amusement parks charged 25 cents admission, movies 10 cents a ticket, so families weighed outings carefully. This slowed impulsive spending when wages felt fresh. Sociologists in the 1930s observed that cash-on-hand budgeting reduced household debt by up to 40%. But strict control needed visible reminders, something families could literally hold in their hands. 20. Visual progress cues kept discipline strong. Every envelope told a story the moment it was picked up. Thinner stacks meant sacrifices were working. Thicker ones meant temptation was near. Families even marked envelopes with tally lines, a crude version of progress bars. Children learned arithmetic by counting grocery coins. During the Depression, when every dime counted. This physical visibility built powerful restraint. Neighbors even compared envelopes as a sign of stability. The lesson wasn't about money alone, it was about psychology. Yet, one envelope carried untouchable weight, 19. Emergency envelopes were left untouched unless critical families treated the emergency envelope like glass. It existed, but wasn't to be broken casually. A 1936 federal survey found that even in households earning under $20 a week, some still tucked away $1 for sickness or layoffs. That single bill might mean medicine, a doctor's visit, or even bus fare to a new job. Mothers often guarded it fiercely, refusing to spend without necessity. Its silence in daily life was its power. But lean weeks forced families into another hard routine. 18. Short pay weeks triggered envelope triage. When factory hours were cut or mines slowed, paychecks shrank fast. Families didn't panic. They reorganized. Rent and groceries held priority, while envelopes for clothing or outings shriveled. The Children's Bureau, in 1932, reported parents routinely trimmed secondary categories by 50% to keep lights on. Triage felt brutal but practical. Better patched shoes than missed rent. Neighbors sometimes compared triage strategies, learning from each other's sacrifices. This ritual hardened resilience, but another envelope held softer lessons, designed for the smallest hands. 17. Coin envelopes tracked children's school or lunch money. Every dime for pencils, books, or lunch carried its own label. A nickel each day bought milk and bread in most schools, so parents tucked coins into envelopes marked school. By 1930, educators noted absenteeism dropped in homes using this system. Kids weren't turned away hungry. Parents often let children decorate these tiny packets, making budgeting tangible. It gave children early financial literacy and pride in contributing. But beyond daily pennies, some envelopes stretched months ahead, toward milestones no family wanted to miss. 16. Holiday envelopes were filled months ahead. Families began saving for Christmas as early as July. Even 25 cents each week added up to $6 by December, enough for toys, fruit, or fabric. Newspapers in 1934 praised households who never borrowed for holidays, thanks to this slow, steady envelope method. Birthdays and weddings got the same treatment, sometimes labeled in careful handwriting. Kids often peeked, dreaming about what the future envelope might buy. This practice kept celebrations joyful, but another envelope taught wealth building on an even smaller scale. 15. Pay yourself a first envelopes built small wealth. Even struggling families set aside a token, sometimes just a single dollar, before spending on anything else. Economists noted in 1938 that households practicing this built savings 3 times faster than peers. These tiny deposits eventually bought Liberty bonds, insurance premiums, or even down payments. It wasn't about the amount, but the ritual. Security grew one envelope at a time. Parents often framed it as paying for the future. Yet discipline wasn't limited to wealth. It also prepared families for the calendar's inevitable surprises. 14. Seasonal expense envelopes avoided yearly surprises. Every year brought predictable costs: coal deliveries in December, canning jars in July, school fees each September. Instead of scrambling, families slowly filled envelopes labeled for each season. Rural extension bulletins from the 1920s urged this practice, noting that households budgeting for coal saved nearly 15% by buying early. The system turned cycles of scarcity into prepared moments. Fathers might proudly say, "Winter's covered already." But while seasons repeated, another envelope focused on something even more constant: the clothes people wore daily. 13. Clothing envelopes saved for repairs. Before fashion, money inside was rarely for new dresses or suits. It went first to soles, thread, and mending. Cobbler receipts from the 1930s show half of his trade was paid from clothing envelopes, proving repair was cheaper than replacement. Parents prioritized patches on boys' knees and resolving work boots over store-bought fashion. This envelope quietly stretched garments for years. But another envelope focused not on fabric, but on something far more essential: how workers actually got to their jobs each morning. 12. Travel envelopes carried exact fares. Trolley tokens, train fares, or bus nickels were tucked away, so a missed ride never risked a paycheck. In 1929, New York's subway fare was 5 cents, meaning $1 in the travel envelope secured 20 workdays. Rural families kept horse feed money here too. Without this envelope, employment itself could collapse. It symbolized stability, but numbers alone didn't matter. Each week, families inspected envelopes carefully, leading to the next crucial habit that revealed every hidden leak in household money. 11. Envelope audits happened at week's end Saturday nights. Families opened envelopes, counted coins, and compared against receipts. This ritual exposed overspending on treats or shortages in groceries. Social workers during the Depression often reported households that audited weekly had debts 40% lower than neighbors. Children sometimes helped, learning arithmetic through real money. These audits turned budgeting into a shared discipline, not a secret. And once financial order was clear, attention shifted outward to obligations owed not to oneself, but to the wider community of faith and fellowship. 10. Community envelopes covered church dues or lodge fees. Even the poorest households tucked coins aside for Sunday offering or fraternal lodge dues. In 1934, black churches in Chicago ran 60% of community relief through these steady envelopes, proving how critical they were. Skipping dues meant losing respect, support, or burial insurance. That little packet represented belonging, not just money. Once obligations were met, families could finally look toward future burdens, big purchases, hospital bills, or furniture that required an envelope with a very different kind of patience. 9. Sinking fund envelopes covered large purchases. Doctor bills, sewing machines, or radios weren't impulse buys. They were prepaid week by week. A $20 hospital bill in 1932 meant 4 months of steady envelope deposits before the debt was cleared. Furniture stores encouraged this discipline, noting fewer defaults among envelope users. These packets made credit unnecessary. Unlike fun money or food coins, this envelope grew quietly heavy. Yet no family could live without relief, so another envelope existed solely to bring joy without guilt. 8. Fun envelopes allowed guilt-free spending nickels for Saturday matinees, a soda fountain treat, or baseball tickets went here. Even during the Depression, families who skipped all leisure saw morale collapse. Economists noted that households reserving just 2% for fun had lower stress and better savings discipline overall. One boy in 1931 recalled his movie dime envelope as his only light in dark years. These small pleasures kept families sane, but they also taught a lesson. Every coin had to be tracked and even written down. 7. Ledger envelopes doubled. As record keepers, families scribbled every penny spent on the back flap. In 1932, studies from the Bureau of Home Economics showed that households using written logs reduced waste by nearly 18%. A mother's neat handwriting might show 5 cents for bread, 2 for matches. These tiny ledgers became living documents of survival. They were both memory and discipline, often kept for years. Yet some families wanted instant reminders, so another trick evolved: colored envelopes that spoke volumes before they were even opened. 6. Priority color coding separated needs from wants. Red envelopes screamed rent. Blue meant extras, like cinema tickets. A 1937 Kansas City homemaker recalled how her children learned colors before numbers this way, because the envelopes trained them daily. Visual cues bypassed arguments. One glance decided priorities. Merchants even sold pre-colored packets to encourage order. This system reinforced hierarchy. Survival came before delight. But discipline extended beyond sorting. Bulk buying, handled with its own special envelopes, gave families purchasing power far larger than their individual coins suggested. 5. Bulk buy envelopes reserved for wholesale trips. Flour by the 50-pound sack, beans in burlap, or coal by the ton. These demanded a cash stash. Pooling money weekly meant families could hit warehouses once a month, saving up to 30% compared to corner stores. In 1935, cooperative buyers clubs ran entire ledgers on envelope systems, proving their worth. Every deposit bought leverage against hunger or cold. Yet temptation was real, so some families hid certain envelopes entirely, locking them away in unexpected places for safety. 4. Hidden envelopes stashed cash away from temptation. Some households tucked envelopes inside cookbooks, under mattresses, or inside mason jars of flour. A 1930 Chicago welfare survey noted 41% of families admitted to concealment saving because visible cash disappeared too quickly. Psychology mattered: out of sight, out of mind. Husbands often found payday money already hidden by wives before they noticed. These stashes became secret insurance against drinking or impulse buying. Yet not all secrecy was private. Some envelopes were deliberately shared to keep accountability sharp. 3. Shared envelopes kept spouses accountable. Both partners could see every dime when envelopes sat in plain view. A husband might grumble at fewer tobacco coins, but the visual proof ended arguments. In 1936, women's magazines advised keeping joint envelopes to prevent mystery shortages. Even children joined the ritual, counting coins aloud each week. Families framed it as teamwork, a shared scoreboard against debt. Yet envelopes weren't only numbers. They often carried names, transforming abstract goals into something tangible, like shoes for Johnny or new stove. 2. Goal-labeled envelopes gave spending a face. Scrawled titles like Winter Coal, Dr. Bill, or Christmas Goose reminded families why sacrifice mattered. By 1934, consumer researchers observed that labeled goals increased follow-through by 27% compared to unlabeled envelopes. A mother staring at school shoes thought twice before rating it for candy. Handwritten names personalized discipline, turning paper into moral anchors. Families found pride when these envelopes finally opened, delivering promised goods. All of it reinforced one lesson: the entire culture of envelopes forged iron discipline across generations. 1. Envelope culture created iron discipline in spending. The ritual wasn't simply dividing coins, it was rewiring habits. In 1932, a Bureau of Labor report found households using envelope systems cut unnecessary expenses by nearly 19% compared to neighbors. Every payday became a ceremony. Cash laid out, envelopes filled, promises sealed. The physical act slowed decisions, forced priorities, and made spending visible. Even small children saw where money flowed, embedding lifelong lessons. By the 1940s, many Depression-era families credited envelopes with keeping them debt-free through decades of hardship. Thanks for watching. If these forgotten budgeting tricks sparked your curiosity, hit like and subscribe for more stories of survival and smart money. We've got plenty more history lessons that still matter today. Stick around and keep learning with us.